they immediately went to, well, what are we going to do next? This is a tragedy that we're all feeling. And again, it wasn't a short shelf life of a celebrity death and then you move on to the next news story. Like, this was consuming people. And they immediately said, let's get together Tuesday and figure out what's next, because this can't stop.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Unlikely Event. I am your host, Rick Kiley, founding partner of Soho Experiential, New York-based agency that's produced thousands of events over the past couple decades. I am excited today to have my business partner of 21 years back with me, Jeff Boedges, in the co-hosting chair. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thanks for letting me back in.
There's always a seat warm for you, buddy. You know that.
Well,
you know that. You're just such a busy guy.
Yeah, we want these things to sound smart, so I try to stay in the background.
No, we need you here. We need the banter. Anyway, so moving on into our episode today, joining us today is Paul Robinson. He is a regional and marketing and brand activation leader who turns strategy into street-level impact. With a career spanning sports, tech, and B2B, he's wired for revenue-driven campaigns, channel-driven partnerships, and field-tested activations that actually move the needle. Paul has been on the agency side as well as in-house at some great brands such as Sprint, Panasonic, Brother International, and Diadem Sports. He thrives at the intersection of brand, sales, and experience, localizing national narratives, orchestrating multi-market activations, and building marketing toolkits that equip everyone to win. Paul, welcome to In the Unlikely Event.
Well, thanks for having me, gentlemen. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think we forgot to mention that I've known you for close to 30 years.
Oh, why are
I
we
was hoping
dating
you wouldn't
ourselves
actually say the
already?
number, but yes, it's been quite some time.
We met when we were 5.
Yeah, go ahead. Wax poetic about it.
Oh, no, I'm just saying. I think part of the reason that I'm here is because we have a lot of shared experiences, Paul and I. Well, in fact, there's a number of people that are in our near orbit that share the same family tree as Paul and I. So it's a full circle moment because I get to come back and talk about something I haven't talked about in 30 years. But also, I think just because Paul and I have so many shared experiences, I'm hoping I can add a different perspective on some of the same stuff.
No, for sure. It's great to see you, of course. And, Rick, great having met you throughout the time as well. And it's always great to be with guys like yourself. So thanks for having me again.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are dating ourselves, and that'll actually help us segue into what we're talking about. Let's set up today's unlikely event that we are discussing. We go back to the greatest decade, for me, the 1990s. This is before streaming, before social media. We're getting a TV channel picked up meant convincing people to literally call their cable provider and ask for that. Paul and his team were hired by a network called Romance Classics, which, correct me if I'm wrong, today is known as the Women's Entertainment Network, right?
Correct.
It's a channel built entirely around love stories. Their promotional idea at the time to buy 2 of Princess Diana's dresses, that is the people's princess, Princess Diana, and take them on a national mall tour around the U.S. That's back when malls were the place to be.
When they were open, yeah.
when there were people going there. Museum quality displays, a multi-city rollout, thousands of fans walking through every weekend. And the name of the tour? Well, we'll save that for later. All right, Paul, let's start at the beginning, okay? What was Romance Classics? What was that station? And what were you guys hired to do?
First of all, you kind of summed it up really well. At that point, there was no streaming options. And really, for people to have access to Romance Classics literally meant that cable operators needed to add it into their channel array, pay those fees, and obviously pass those along in accordance to their customers. So customers really drove what was on, whether you were with Cablevision or any of those companies, it really kind of depended upon the consumer and really getting them to be a happy customer, right? Yeah. So borrowing very heavily from, and if you can remember the MTV, when they first started, their entire campaign was based upon, I want my MTV. And that's what they wanted people shouting in the streets. I want my MTV. So kind of borrowing from that concept, the idea was really to get people exposed to what romance classics was, which, as you mentioned, was all about romance and love and beauty and just aspirational, romantic type of stories that they were programming. And they wanted people in the audience, their consumers, to actually go and send postcards back in the day, call up and literally ask their cable operator to add this channel that they wanted to see the content from.
All right. 2 questions.
Sure.
What's a postcard?
Yeah.
No,
and
I'm just kidding.
Were they out of carrier pigeons? I think.
Yeah. I remember I Want My MTV, of course, but it actually never dawned on me that they wanted you to call. Like, I Want My MTV was about getting people to call their cable station and say, I want MTV. Did either of you do this? Did you like call a place and say, I want this TV channel?
When I was a kid and we got cable, I think we had like 27 channels, and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Yeah. And then I saw MTV and I was like, holy crap, we're getting a premium channel for free. I couldn't believe we were getting it. So I didn't say anything to anyone because I thought they would turn it off.
I mean, the point is, yes, it was designed obviously to drive awareness, whether you had it or not, but it made you look for it. Do I have it? If not, I want it, right? I mean, that was the overall concept, because it was trying to get those limited cable stations. At that point, they didn't have 100 or 200 or 300. Like you said, Jeff, there was, a few dozen.
Right.
If they were going to add MTV or Romance Classics, it meant that something else was going away, because they weren't just adding a channel. Yeah. So it literally was, they were fighting the bandwidth, for that limited space.
Yeah, the bandwidth wasn't there.
Okay. So then when you're doing this program, like, success meant getting people to ask for the channel, right? Like, the success metric was very, very clear. We get people to ask for the channel. That's what success looks like. Is that correct?
100%. It was all about them driving awareness. We had sign-up sheets, which was basically that we would send in at the end of all these people that came and visited that said, I want Romance Classics. We did have postcards, so people can write their own postcards and send them in. So we did all of that on site. And the idea was, how many of these major markets where we were going to these malls could they put pressure on the cable operator to help facilitate a longer conversation about adding Romance Classics to the dial.
All right, cool. So then walk us through this idea. How did you land on the notion of touring around Princess Diana's dresses? How did that become a part of your national campaign?
Was that our idea or theirs at CMI? We had good creative there, but I can't remember if that came out of it.
We did. And what happened was it actually predated the conversation, if you will. So Romance Classics is owned by American Movie Classics, AMC. And they actually bought, believe it or not, 3 dresses at Christie's auctions for $700,000 at the time. So not an insignificant investment.
No.
And now that they had them, that's where this whole thing started, right? We have this asset. They knew they were going to use it promotionally. So we landed on this mall tour, again, heading out to the major markets where they were most interested in gaining channel space, right?
Right.
And just using these dresses, which were, again, iconic. It was Princess Diana, People's Princess, as you said, and just everybody wanted to see and touch and be a part of her legacy, right? And who she was. It was all about being first class and, ultimately very aspirational in the way it would feel and look and be presented. So everything that we did always needed that type of a lens. This was not MTV, which had a grunge element and everything else. This was class personified, and that's what they always focused on.
So when you were creating this pop-up, you're not like touring a trailer around or throwing tents up here. You had to build something.
I think there was a trailer. Yeah, pretty sure there was a trailer.
Just like an RV, like
a big box truck. And yes, that was branded, and that was to generate awareness of Romance Classics as it was covering mileage throughout the country. So for sure, that was branded. It wasn't used in the set itself.
We used to factor those numbers into our exposure numbers. We'd say, oh, we generated lots of impressions for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to create something. We actually worked with a set designer out of LA, and it was museum quality set design, something that was aesthetically beautiful. So when you walked in the mall and you went to the center court area where we always were, and you were going through and walking through, you saw these big glass, white laminate, backlit, just gorgeous museum quality display cases with those dresses. So, and that was obviously the focus. We were making it as romantic as possible. So we had a Prince Charming at every site, and you would try on the slipper. Right.
Did Disney come in and try to shut you down for like infringing on their IP with the slipper?
You know what? In today's day and age, who knows?
I think it became The Bachelor. I think we were giving away roses, weren't we?
We gave away roses. We were actually, part of it was entering a contest to win a custom designed dress for yourself.
Oh, wow.
As well as win the value of the dress in cash.
Wow. And so this was just like, Santa's there in December and the Easter Bunny's there, and you were like right in the Santa spot. Is that where you were set up essentially?
That's right.
Yep.
All right.
We did a lot of mall tours back then. I mean, we had all of the malls on speed dial and had those relationships. And so I'm sure we got preferential treatment as far as where we were set up.
Yeah. And again, as you mentioned earlier, the malls were the town square of America back then. Yep. Like, we're all dating ourselves. We all have a little bit more gray hair than we care to look at. But that's where people were. Here, they were going on the weekends. Come on. Yeah, you look good, man. The rest
Thanks,
of us.
Buddy. All right. And then the scale. How many malls are we talking about? How many cities did you hit on this tour? Was the plan?
We were going to 20 malls over 10 weeks. We had 2 sets.
Wow. Okay.
So they bought 3. We had taken 2 and then obviously built sets around those.
Who got the third one?
The third one they kept and they were using as well for other reasons and other promotional things that they were doing. So right now where they are, who knows? So
we were doing it rock style where we would move the dresses from one set to the other, and that would be the last piece to get moved in were the dresses?
Well, the dresses were, once that set was built and that case was built, the dresses obviously were put in. And then we had security at all times around those dresses because at that point, like I said, they were purchased for $700,000 for the 3. So there was a serious cash value to those.
Did you do like the Buckingham Palace security guards? Did you like dress as security like those guys and like people they couldn't move at all?
Yeah, I think that was out of our scope, out of our budget.
Out of your budget, you had $700,000 worth of dresses. You couldn't like get like $150 costume.
We did have them. Right. They were marching band uniforms that we got secondhand.
I will tell you though, they were very particular about even our road staff, and they dressed all of our road staff. We had official uniforms that everyone had to be wearing because everything was about first class and beauty and pristine.
So I get an idea. We've got this 20 city tour, 10 weeks. 2 expensive dresses, Princess Diana, icon internationally. Everyone loves her in America. People are coming out. Everything's working. You told me that you were 3-4 weeks into the tour. Things were going well.
Crushing it.
And then we hit Labor Day weekend, 1997. So take us to the moment where everything changed.
So yeah, everything did change quite a bit Labor Day weekend. And, it was Saturday night of a Labor Day weekend. Again, we were live in 2 cities. It was actually Detroit and LA that we were live. And like Jeff was, and like a lot of folks in our general age range at that point, we were down the shore, Jersey Shore, at share houses that we had with a lot of friends and what have you. So this is Labor Day weekend, culmination of the summer. We're about to go hibernate back up for fall and winter. So it's kind of the last hoorah of the summer.
Right.
We were there just hanging out, having an early cocktail, and I was watching TV at the bar. We were ordering drinks and hanging out, and a news flash came across that Princess Diana was in a terrible accident. And we all remember where we were at these moments. There's some of these watershed moments that we all sort of remember. And this was particularly poignant. I instantly realized that this was changing a lot of things very quickly. And it looked like, unfortunately, the accident was very serious and she was in critical condition. And I knew that, if what eventually did happen, sadly, were to happen, that again, there was a lot that needed to go on professionally for myself.
I want to remind everybody, there were no cell phones, so you had to go find a landline.
Right. Yeah. So you're enjoying your final Labor Day weekend. You're at the beach bar. You and your buddies are probably started day drinking. You're there. You see this on TV, and then you have to Yeah, I've had that happen to me before. It's like, oh God, I got to sober up really, really fast, and it's like,
Yeah, but
stuff's
there were no
gotten
police
serious.
involved, Rick.
No, no. No, I'm just like, oh, I have to, there's work to be done. And then you have to go to where there's a telephone and a computer and maybe a dial-up modem.
I don't even think we had dial-up modems, man. I don't think so.
We had pagers, and that was it. And it was landlines, and the nearest one was my shore house, and that's where I was going to run back to and kind of set up.
All right, so you get back to the beach house. You're setting up Command Central. What's the decision tree? Like, who decides what to do, and how quickly did you try to put this plan into action?
So the first call was to my boss, who was, part of senior management at the time. And he and I were on the phone quite a bit, and also making sure that I can actually get a hold of my tour directors that were out on the road.
Right.
Now, again, as Jeff mentioned, there's no cell phones. There's no, constant screen attachment that we have now. There's no Slack or instant messaging, anything like that. It was literally pagers and landlines. So it wasn't, honestly, like we did not have the luxury we might have, but also the scrutiny we would have today of having access to everybody at the client and, throughout the whole chain of folks that were involved in this. So this was really becoming something that Joe Mercante and myself knew that we were going to manage and make some decisions on, because we didn't have time to try to figure out the communications to all of these other people that might need to be reached in that moment. And we knew that time was of the essence.
Well, I feel like this is maybe the part, Paul, where we should clue the audience in on why the stakes maybe were even a little bit higher. We talked about the program itself, but I think the program creative was going to create some challenges once this horrible event occurred. Can you explain to the audience, the listening audience?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously,
what that's about. Obviously,
under any circumstances, this would be something that was going to be a challenge. We knew we had literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of material, of product out on the road in this case that would become more valuable. But even more so, the tour itself was under the name The Dress to Die For, DI for Princess Diana.
Yep.
So it was The Dress to Die For, which
Yep.
as you think about the optics and news channels, and thank God no social media back then, but the potential for a real PR nightmare, in addition to the value of the dresses, was just something that was a little sensitive, we'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah. The social media that I could imagine for that tour titled that, while people are Instagramming photos of themselves and something like that happens today would be unreal.
Everything would be a different calculus today, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't believe what you were thinking. Like, guys.
And there would have been material out there that we couldn't retract. I mean, it just would have been stuff that's history, because people would have been taking pictures, and that all of that shit would have been blown up.
God bless you. A horrible loss, and just like, what a crazy circumstance to have thrown in your lap.
It was. And again, we kind of laugh a little bit now with the name, but obviously at the time it was very heavy on every phone call and every conversation about this, and protecting our client and ourselves, right? I mean, we were the agency attached to it, but we had a great relationship with that client. We worked with them before, we worked with them after, and we knew that we wanted to protect them and all the good people there too.
Yeah. So did you ever get in touch with your client, like, in this decision-making process, or were they similarly unavailable and you just said, we have to act and do this?
Honestly, the communications were so different back then, and it really wasn't that they were not carrying pagers that we would have the number to.
Right.
If you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. We were holding pagers that they might have reached out.
We left a voicemail. I'm pretty sure we left them a voicemail at the office.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is not good.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if you get this, call us kind of mentality. But there was no conversation that was had with the client until the next day. That I know for a fact.
Did you worry about the risk of taking a bold action like this without their approval and buy-in? Was that a thought that ever crossed your mind?
No, and I'll be honest. Maybe it's because I was young and bold, or young and stupid, however you want to say it.
Bold.
And maybe because the answer was just so obvious. Knowing them well, like we did, and the fact that they were very concerned with always being first class, and they had an image as a romantic network, romance classics, all about love and romance.
Got it.
They were not going to do anything that would risk that, especially as they're fighting for channel space, as we mentioned. So honestly, there was no second guessing along the way, even as the decision was socialized over the next day or two after. There was nothing but total agreement that came through from anyone who was remotely involved. Nobody second guessed anything we did.
This point, Paul, that you brought up, and I think Jeff's speaking about, I think what separates great producers is that ability to like act without perfect information, to rely on your instincts and experience to make hard decisions like this. Like you had to
in the moment. I mean, you have to do it in the moment.
And in the moment. Yep. And so we're entering the AI era. And what we're seeing in this era is increasingly marketing leaders are able to build systems and networks around them so that they can make these calls with more confidence and not have to just rely on instinct, that they have these things gamed out. And that's something that's built into our partners' out of office platform. They have this platform that event producers can use. They can game out decisions. They can customize decisions so that these tough calls are a lot easier to make. So that's my soft plug, because I think it really addresses this moment. I encourage anyone who's producing events today, check them out at liveoutofoffice.com. Their platform can definitely make your life easier and help control some of that potential event chaos.
Hindsight 2020. I wish I had them then.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I say talk to them about it's like, man, I wish I had them back in the day. And so people like us who, paved the way with all of the learning that's now fed these systems, that's, I think, going to make live events a lot easier to produce from a control and decision standpoint. So, and these guys are really helping make that happen. So let's just get back to our story. I guess it's great that everyone was so aligned. I'm curious, was there ever a moment that you felt or that anyone voiced that this may not be the right decision? Was there anyone on the nay side of things?
Honestly, no. Nobody at that point in the days that followed thought anything but what was accomplished was the right decision, and the actions and the steps taken were the right decision.
I feel like we were schooled that way, Paul.
Again, this was a tragedy. People were really upset. I mean, we talk about, the death of a celebrity or someone, and the lifespan of that now is pretty short. But this one went on for a very long period of time. Yeah. In fact, it's still going on. She was truly iconic, and in a way that not many people ever are or have been. And so the thought for anybody to look like there was something happening that would jeopardize the love and the admiration that people felt for her wouldn't be palatable for anybody.
You wouldn't want to seem exploitative. And with that name and with those pieces, it easily could have come across that way had it stayed out, because then it would have seemed like grave robbing. And that is not at all what they want to do. Yeah. The founder of CMI, Paula Balzer, was very tough, but a very good teacher. And I even now when I'm dealing with people that come from that family tree, there's a lot of decision-making power and prowess that comes from that school. And this idea that anybody would have had a counter opinion to pulling the plug on that program, I don't really think it was possible, Paul. And I'm guessing, I'm asking if you feel the same way.
For sure. I mean, again, I think that Paula set a tremendous example and really empowered and taught and, spent a lot of time with everybody from a leadership perspective and really kind of creating a culture and all those things. And that's why there's so many people in that family tree right now that are still in contact with each other and still, very good friends and colleagues at times and clients at times. It goes back to, I think, what we were all able to learn at a very young age. It's still something that I value in people. When I know they've been through that agency experience at a young age, I think it just sets you up to look and think at business differently. And I definitely feel lucky that, Jeff and myself and all these others, came from that place. And I think if there was any other decision that was made, there would have been more hell to pay.
Oh, for sure. for certain.
All right, cool. Well, then let's get back to the action here, if you will. So you made the call. What did you guys have to do, like, that night? Like, what did you have to? You told me, like, you guys had to jump into action immediately to make some changes to based on the decision to ensure that your client looked okay, and you wanted to make the decision. What were the actions that you had to take?
So again, it was a logistical challenge for sure. Saturday night, Labor Day weekend, operating in malls, which are, guess what, closed and locked up overnight.
Yeah.
There was obviously, we had dresses that we need to secure because of their now even greater financial value. And then all of the dress to die for signage and graphics and promotional material, we wanted out of sight as quickly as possible, including that truck that we talked about that was parked in the mall parking lot.
With a full wrap.
It was full wrap, and it was get those guys out there and start ripping that wrap off of the truck.
Which, if you've ever done,
Man,
that's not easy. That's a lot easier said than done, man. You need heat guns.
Yes. So again, this all had to happen before the mall opened on Sunday morning. And this was now, by the time she passed, it was late Saturday night. It was 11, maybe midnight or so on the East Coast. I remember very well. I was calling and I was being put on the phone with people at the mall, like, because these guys are showing up again now and saying, I got to get to my display and I got to get that dress. And, mall security was rightfully a little bit cautious as well, right? They don't let anyone in at that point.
No. Yeah. And you did it. So you had like from 11 p.m. till what time do the malls open Sunday?
Malls on
like
Sunday,
10?
I think, are usually 10 a.m. at that point.
Right. All right. So you
so
got
they had
11.
a bunch of hours, but it was, they used every bit of those hours to get that done.
Wow. And you got
really
it done.
Just kind of make it look like the next morning that there was nothing there.
And you hit it. You achieved that. Yeah.
Hit it. We were also very fortunate that our tour managers were very dedicated. They didn't not call me back, and they didn't hang the phone up, and they didn't say, I'm relaxing, it's Saturday night, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Everybody had that sense of ownership from the crew to the team to the client. So it was great.
Did we do the full loadout? Because those cases and those stages and everything else, there's no way two people could have done that.
No, we could not get everything out, but where they had graphics on them, which said Romance Classics, The Dress to Die For, those were taken off of the white laminate.
Right.
So it looked like just blank white laminate glass cases. They must be setting up for a fashion show kind of mentality versus what should be here that isn't. So we couldn't load it out until we had day laborers because it was such a heavy, intensive setup of a crew. We didn't have crews of 10 out there.
The dismantling of that, I mean, that's 10 weeks, 12 weeks worth of work, pre-work of fabrication and setup and design, and all gone in 11 hours.
It's amazing that you guys were able to pull that off. And if, really just with a dedicated crew that must really just have cared about what they were doing, which is, again, I keep talking about every time I do an episode of this show, I just want to wax poetic about the people in this industry because they care so fucking much.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to keep this moving forward here, though. When the client finally woke up and you got in touch with them, what did they say? What was their reaction to the efforts that you guys made and the change that you made?
So first and foremost, they were extremely grateful. They were to your point, they recognized the amount of labor and time and resources and care that went into making it happen and making the decision. And again, no second guessing from any of that. And at the same time, like I said, Princess Diana, they didn't buy those dresses on a whim, and they didn't decide to do this tour just because they wanted to do something with the dresses.
They were fans. They were straight up fans of Princess Di, and they wanted to do something that. And again, this is predating when you had 1,000 case studies or 1,000 data points that you could say this is exactly what we need to do. This was gut, and the gut started with their own fandom. They loved Princess Di. And so, and I think you're right on it, Paul, because I feel like they were pretty upset just about her. And the tour was secondary. I feel like they did a really remarkable job of recognizing the moment.
Yeah, they did. And to that point, Jeff, and to answer the question, Rick, they immediately went to, well, what are we going to do next? We need to honor Princess die. Like this is a tragedy that we're all feeling. And again, it wasn't a short shelf life of a celebrity death and then you move on to the next news story. Like this was consuming people. This was something that people were really horrified by and saddened by and traumatized by. And they immediately said, well, let's get together. And it was Labor Day weekend. Let's get together Tuesday and figure out what's next, because this can't stop, basically.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, what did you guys decide to do about the rest of the program? Did it get canceled? Did you make a change? Did it go on hiatus? What were your next steps?
Yeah, so clearly we went on hiatus and we got the dresses back and secured, and we took the sets back to the designer who's actually out in LA. So we got all that stuff back. But we met Tuesday as a large team at that point, and really, again, sitting there still shell-shocked. What are we going to do? We have the dresses. What's the next best step? And what ultimately came out of a long brainstorm, an emotional brainstorm, was let's raise money for her charities. So that really became the first and foremost focus. So the program, obviously, we weren't going to keep using that same name, but it became called The Legacy of Love. And we redesigned the set, and we redesigned the experience to still show these beautiful dresses that people now wanted to see more than ever, right? But we also enabled fundraising. Romance Classics brought a camera crew. So we relaunched a mall tour. We continued that mall tour. Again, 2 sets in 2 cities simultaneously.
Okay.
And there was like a confessional sound booth where you can go in and literally grieve, because people wanted to share what Princess Diana meant to them. It wasn't just a celebrity. She represented something much greater than just royalty even.
Wow.
They later actually edited those into content that lived on the channel for some time.
Oh, awesome.
So where the metric initially was, I want my MTV, we need to send postcards and we need to get the cable operators talking.
Right.
This was about, yes, press, but for the right reasons, generating fundraising, letting people grieve, and just honoring her memory.
How long did it take us to restage it? Do you remember?
We were back out on the road in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
From that meeting, I think the next day I was out in LA with the set designer, kind of working on the set once again and getting it all squared away, bringing the dresses out to them to get the tour started again.
Yeah. Plus all the venues had to be renegotiated, I'm sure, at least, Sorry, I'm just going through all the arithmetic of everything that would have had to have been done to restand it up in 3 weeks. And it's, for our fans out there, that's a shitload of work in a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is the malls were very receptive because, again, it was done with the highest level of taste and decorum, and it was not cheesy. It was really about this, a shared experience of humankind, right? And so they were fine. They wanted to get us in there as quickly as they could.
That's great. Originally you had this goal of trying to drive people asking for the network, and I know you said the KPIs shifted after the change in the program, but I have to imagine Romance Classics still was hopeful that people would tune in. You mentioned that some of the content from the tour was used in their station. Do you think that the people who actually had participated in the confessional part, if you will, sort of were then connected to the brand and then wanted the channel? Do you know if that sort of connection ended up happening?
Yes, our metrics all changed, and it really was about raising money and for them, content creation and everything else. But with that was a very heavy PR element as well to help drive donations and revenue for the Princess Diana.
Yeah.
Look, we're all still businessmen and business people at the end of the day. That PR was generating the same type of interest. It just wasn't that blatant of postcards and petitions. It was a softer sell.
It was a far softer
in order to give this fledgling channel a lot of visibility, which it garnered via PR, which ultimately was going to get the eye of those cable television operators, right? The networks themselves.
Yeah.
Now, for the people who partook, yeah, I do remember later hearing stories of people who were writing thank you notes for being in the special and being given the chance to grieve as they were.
Yeah.
And so, I know that they became evangelists, not just fans, but
Yeah.
evangelists.
No
Yeah,
social
yeah.
media back then. A lot of people would want to be able to express that grief in a public manner,
Yeah.
and that
You're right.
there was no other alternative. That's what you had.
That's right.
Yep.
That's a great point, Jeff. Right now it'd be a hashtag. And back then that was the only way that you could have that type of platform.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even have a place to go lay flowers like you would if you were in Buckingham or near Buckingham. It was a very unique space. And Rick, I think you're right on it. That's a very delicate line to walk between being honoring and being seen as exploitative. Evidently, it is possible, but it does take thought and it does take careful consideration.
I think you guys seem to, have that delicate genius balance that was made. And I think it's funny, like it feels like a lot of the programming we try to do today, is in real life stuff that ties back to another property that's there to drive tune in or drive participation, or drive engagement digitally. That, this seems like an unintentional sort of discovered precursor to that. The notion of course, if someone participated in this program, was grieving her and had that opportunity and that was meaningful to them, and then they found out that they maybe appear in this thing that's going to be broadcast on TV about that, they would want to follow that trend, and like unintentionally you're achieving that goal. I think it's really impressively done, and to do it in such short time, it's really an impressive pivot. And just like it's exactly to me what this show's about. Like you've come up with, you had these great plans, something happened that no one would have possibly envisioned happening, and then you were able to adjust in real time and then quick time and still deliver, I think, something that the client wanted.
I think it actually ended up being more effective because of it.
And maybe better, which is insane to me. But really, really kudos to you and your team for everything that you did. I think it's amazing work. All right. Well, you don't have to respond to that.
No, thank you.
I was going to say thank you, but I actually had nothing to do with it. I had to go work on the Playboy account. I had to go to the mansion like the next weekend. So,
Oh my God.
My life was very different then.
Yeah. Jeff just keeps looking to tell that story on this podcast somewhere.
It's the humble brag.
I'm just curious if you felt, was there something from this experience that you have taken forward with you throughout your career? Was there something that happened there that you're like, oh, this is now part of who I am as a producer?
Yeah. And again, I think it's the overall experience that Jeff and I kind of talked about, like being a part of CMI and the culture and the community that we really formed early on, is something that was ultimately the greatest career lesson that I can look back upon.
That most of us can look back
with extreme fondness, and a lot of great friendships, including my wife, by the way, who was a fellow employee at the time.
That's against the law now, Paul. Just saying,
But so that was a big part of it. And I think ultimately at the end of that, and how it ties directly to this, is the relationships and the trust that you build. This experience kind of cemented a lot of that. And I think that the biggest, takeaway for me professionally was that sense of ownership and feeling like every part of it belongs to you, right? It's very easy to say, that's not my job. I'm down the shore and they'll figure that out, or they don't pay me enough, or that's management.
That's great. I love that. Yeah.
But it wasn't just me, and I'm not a superhero. It was everyone on the executive side, everybody on the road, and then senior management and the client and the whole atmosphere that came from that. Ultimately, I think that's the biggest lesson, or the biggest thing that I take away, is how important relationships, community, culture are in everything that you do. And it doesn't matter whether it's a mall tour or it's a basketball team. Really doesn't matter. Whatever those things are, that's ultimately what drives success and value, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. All right. And finally, the question I ask everyone who comes on this podcast after navigating this, I'm sure there might've been moments that weekend where you were like, man, I really wish I could just be drinking beer with my buddies at the shore house rather than dealing with this. Like, I'm just curious.
Every weekend.
No, but I mean, just like it's a job that has requirements that are sometimes out of the ordinary. I'm just curious, what keeps bringing you back? Again,
I would definitely say those relationships and all of that. But there's also something really special, and I think you guys know this very well from your careers, in sitting in a strategic meeting and literally drawing something up on a napkin sometimes, or kind of developing a back of the envelope kind of budget and plan, and then watching that ultimately become a real life element, and then going back to the client and saying, we started here, we got here, we pivoted maybe here, and then we over delivered on all of your goals and all of your things. So I think that overall, I think there's very few places in the world where you can effectively work on all parts of that cycle and chain other than an experiential and events and lifestyle type of marketing that we all do.
Yeah.
And I love it. I mean, again, I've done a lot of different things in my career. At the end of the day, that's always like the gold standard. Can you literally look at something strategically, watch it get executed tactically, and then tie it back strategically? Like that whole life cycle to me is what marketing and this is all about.
That's the magic.
Great.
When it's done right.
Yep.
All right. I mean, great answers. I've loved this conversation. Paul, it's a great story. I mean, I think the other reason we do this is we really get great stories to tell at parties and whatnot, and I love hearing these stories. People never can believe them, like, and it's really awesome. So I want to say thank you for joining us. There are moments in history where everything you've built suddenly doesn't make sense anymore. And in these moments, you don't have time for perfect decisions. You have to trust your instincts, act quickly, hope you're doing the right thing. Paul and his team didn't just shut something down. They transformed it from a campaign about attention into an experience about connection. That's the difference between just producing events and understanding how a cultural moment impacts people. So, it's a great job. Before we go, I want to say a big thank you to our content sponsor, Out of Office, and to all of you. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time when the next unlikely thing goes surprisingly right. I'm Rick Kiley, and this has been In the Unlikely Event. Thanks for listening to In the Unlikely Event, where we unpack the moments that went wrong and celebrate the people who made them right. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And hey, while you're at it, drop us a review or share this episode with a fellow event pro who's been through their own little disaster. You can catch more great content by following Unlikely Event on YouTube, Unlikely Event Pod on Instagram and TikTok, and Soho EXP on LinkedIn. I'm Rick Kiley, and I'll see you next time, right here on In the Unlikely Event.